A few months ago, I made a video about what my thoughts were on the first episode of Stoked. I gave a little overview on what happened, what my initial thoughts were, and all that kind of stuff. It was very introductory, of course, but I said that eventually I would get to watching the rest of the show and make some more videos on it. As you can probably tell from the title of the video, I have now watched all of the first season of Stoked, and I'm ready to give my thoughts on it all before I jump back in for season 2, because yes, there is a second season. So, Stoked Season 1. This contains 26 episodes, which is the same as the original Total Drama seasons. As we all know, Fresh TV is the company who created Total Drama, 16, and Stoked. Stoked shares a lot more similarities with 16, and that they're more like sitcoms as opposed to Total Drama. And if I'm not watching reality TV or wrestling, I'm watching a sitcom because I'm a big sitcom guy. So I love that about Stoked. There'd be some sort of different plotline for each episode while still tying everything together in some sort of way. I wasn't really able to go too in-depth in my first video as that was only about the first episode, but now with an entire season being watched, I can talk a lot more about the characters, their dynamics, and their evolutions as characters. When watching episode 1, I was pretty convinced on Finn and Reef eventually becoming a couple. I wasn't sure how quick would happen, but I just figured it would happen eventually. To my surprise, this did not happen on this season at least. Episode 8 is actually when they get closest to this though. For a few episodes, all the other characters had been just as convinced about them secretly dating or at least both liking each other. In this episode, they were convinced they were lost at sea after one of their usual sexist surfing competitions, and while stranded on this beach together, they almost kissed. That was until the others came along and told them they were just on the far end of the resort. I might get a little all over the place in this video, so just let me be. These two never really get back to this moment of intimacy, and for the rest of the season, Reef is the one who teases Finn a lot about wanting to possibly kiss him or go out with him, and she pretty much denies him each time, but it was Finn who wanted to kiss him first when they thought they were stranded together. I also did mention their sexist surfing competitions, and wow. There are a lot of episodes where Reef is simply just sexist, just flat out. He doesn't think girls are better surfers than guys, and that's pretty much it. But he loves to reiterate it all the time. And this kind of thinking usually ends with him and Finn getting competitive in some sort of way, whether it's their own competition or it's them crashing another competition to try to one-up each other, but it just happens in so many episodes this season. And I don't want to say the writers didn't know what they were doing, but surely they could have done something else besides this for numerous episodes. Finn is a great character though for always standing up to Reef's sexism no matter what. And while yes, he is sexist, I do still find Reef to be a pretty funny character the rest of the time. They clearly have different views on this kind of stuff, which is sad, but at least Reef has a couple moments of maturity. He's just extremely stupid, but as evidenced from episode 24 when Reef replaces surfing with reading, he actually could be really smart if he applied himself. I'm still expecting these two to become a thing sometime in season 2, and hopefully if it does happen, Reef can fully let go of his sexist rhetoric and just let him and Finn both be great at surfing. Then there's the other romantic storyline between Johnny and Emma. I thought Dave was a total simp when I made that video on him, but Johnny is just a new low for simps. He truly had no respect for himself for the majority of the season, as he pretty much would bend over backwards if it meant Emma would notice him. Despite everything Johnny did for Emma, she had a huge crush on Ty, Lo's brother. Of course, Ty barely knew who she was, and Emma was terrible at talking to him no matter what, but she's just as delusional as Johnny. In episode 22, Emma finally gets over Ty, although only temporarily, and decides to go out with Johnny as a backup option. Johnny realizes that he's only a backup and is offended by it, so he decides to get super nasty by making sure that Emma's meal has garlic in it, and when Emma digests garlic, well, it's really bad. Johnny was just insane for that, and then Johnny was just like, oh yeah, I need someone who will like me for me, and then it's all fine between him and Emma. Not only did this whole plotline drag for a long time, but it all just climaxed and ended so abruptly in one episode, and it just felt so wrong to do it like that. This was something being touched on literally every episode, and then it was just over like that. I hated that, but I don't hate either of these characters individually, to be clear. Johnny is a good contrast to the rest of the characters as he's the most responsible one, but still tries to fit in as a cool rebellious type. Emma is also a great character, but she just suffers a little bit from the problem of being too boy obsessed. I mean, she even went out with Ripper, which just felt like a new low to be honest, but at least that was just a one episode thing. And then she started liking Ty again after Ty finally got her name right once. Low standards, but whatever floats your boat. And then Broseph is just good comic relief throughout the whole series. I do hate the episode that's about his bad hygienic practices though, as the episode tried to make him look like the sympathetic figure in the episode, which just didn't really make sense to me. Broseph is basically just what his name is. He's a total chill bro who just loves surfing and, well, really nothing else. He of course is kind of like Reef with all of his dumb comments about things, but there's really not much else to say about him, to be honest. He's just a funny presence. Now, who's the best character? To me, it's easily Lo. Not only is her character just incredible on the surface, but her character development over the course of the season is unmatched. She's a very spoiled diva who constantly tries getting out of doing work so she can go back to living in her penthouse with the rest of her family, and she's incredibly selfish because that's just how she's always lived her life. But by the final episode, things drastically change for her. She's finally let back into the penthouse when she can enjoy her regular rich life again, but when she's there, she's excluded from hanging out with the rest of the friend group since she's no longer an employee, and she no longer fits in with her past friends because she's too much of a grom now. Then she comes to the realization that she'd rather live in the crappy hotel, hang out, and surf with her friends than just shop all day, and she goes back to being an employee at the resort. It's a masterpiece I don't think William Shakespeare even could comprehend. Lo also just has plenty of hilarious moments, and to me, it's just not even a competition with regards to the best character on the show. Although, maybe the Kahuna could have an argument. He's just such an enigma, but I wanted to give him his own shout out because he is one weird, wise guy who's very knowledgeable on the spirits and such of surfing, and he's just really funny. There's other characters too, such as Bomber, who I thought was going to be a total ass, but after a whole season, I can say he's a genuinely great character. The episode where he's turned into a Grom and actually develops an appreciation for the teens is actually really great. There's also the episode where Bomber pranks the same group when they enter a haunted penthouse in the resort that actually shows a really cool side of him as well. Then there's the owner of the entire resort and Lo's father, Mr. Ridgemount. The running gag with him is that his face is never shown, like ever. I'm honestly really curious why this is, but it's even funny in episode 11 when they literally show him from the front but have his hat ridiculously cover his face. There's also Captain Ron, who's the owner of the rival resort, but to me, whenever I see him, I just think of Vito from The Sopranos. I mean, I can't be the only one, right? While I could go on and on about the individual characters, there's other things about this first season I found interesting as well. I love this little moment in episode 24 that shows Total Drama action playing on the TV, showing that Stoked and Total Drama do take place in the same universe. I also think 16 is technically in the same universe, but it's just really cool to show this kind of synergy between all these different shows. The soundtrack for Stoked? Straight bangers every single time. There's always different songs playing at different times in each episode, and they really didn't miss one time with these selections. There's a couple playlists on YouTube that do contain some of the songs that were played throughout the season if you want to listen to them in full. I like to say in general that I did enjoy Stoked. Of course, I still have an entire second season to now watch, and you can probably expect another video whenever I get to that point. While I didn't like this first season, I would still put this show below Total Drama and 16 when it comes to the quality and my overall enjoyment. There's definitely things in Stoked I didn't particularly like, but I'm hoping with the second season that those kind of things get improved on. And I'm looking at you, Johnny Front Desk Guy. Let me know down below what you think of Stoked if you've watched it, and also let me know what else you'd like to see me talk about on this channel. Like the video, subscribe for more videos, and yeah, thank you for watching.